revealed how a lonely rancher's heartwarming shelter changed one life in just one night. The Texas wind howled like a wounded animal, whipping across the plains as Jack stood alone on the porch of his cattle ranch. 2 years had passed since his wife's laughter filled these empty rooms, leaving him with nothing but ghosts and memories. But tonight, as a blizzard bore down on Willow Creek, fate would shake his solitary existence to the core. Maria had nowhere to go. Her little car sputtered to a halt on the icy road, leaving her stranded with 4-year-old Tommy, his big brown eyes wide with fear. They huddled close as the snow swirled around them, transforming the world into a white abyss where hope felt lost. She looked ahead, seeing the faint glow of a distant ranch. It was all they had left. Jack was just about to retreat inside when he heard a voice calling through the storm. "Please. Is anyone there?" Panic gripped his heart. He had grown accustomed to solitude, learned to embrace it almost. Yet, as her cries pierced the howling wind, a small spark of compassion ignited within him. After a brief struggle with his own fear of intrusion, he opened the door, letting the light spill out into the night. The moment Maria entered, her fierce independence clashed with Jack's homey confines. She was a storm of her own, her sharp tongue ready to defend herself against the prejudices she faced as a single mom. "I just need a place to stay for the night," she demanded, eyes narrow, worry etched across her face. Jack offered her a cup of hot coffee, his humble way of trying to fill the silence with warmth. But she turned her back, arms crossed over her chest, exuding distrust. Days turned into nights with the howling storm encapsulating them. Each time Jack extended a hand, her pride pushed him away. They shared meals around the small table, but the air between them grew thick with unsaid words, unresolved feelings. Jack found himself questioning the weight of his traditions. He was just trying to help, yet she saw it as a challenge to her every struggle. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening," Jack interrupted one tense evening. "YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now, let us continue. In the eye of the storm, they wrestled with isolation and connection. Maria raised her voice about her struggles, the pressure of being a single mother, the fear of losing everything. Jack felt his own heart clutch tightly, the echoes of his wife's absence shouting louder than ever. The old ways, his fortress built by years of hard work, began to feel more like prison bars as he clung to the past while she fought for her future. As the storm raged outside, it mirrored the tumult within, pushing them further apart but slowly drawing them together. Jack caught a fleeting glimpse of longing in Maria's eyes, and for the first time, he wondered if the concrete walls around them could transform into something more beautiful. Hope flickered, but would they dare to embrace it? Outside, the storm was still howling, but inside Jack's heart began to thaw. What would tomorrow bring? Could two lonely souls find solace and strength in one another amid the remnants of the blizzard? The sparks of what could be danced quietly between them, daring to ignite a connection that life had almost extinguished. The morning light broke through the heavy clouds, illuminating the ranch in a soft, golden glow. The howling wind had reduced to a whisper, and the world outside was blanketed in a thick layer of white. Jack stood in the kitchen, waiting for the kettle to whistle, looking out at the snow-draped landscape that seemed both serene and foreign. It was a stark contrast from the stormy night before. Maria stirred in the small guest room, her heart heavy with restless dreams. She couldn't shake the uncertainty that had crept in alongside her exhaustion. As she listened to the soft sounds from the kitchen, she felt a warm flicker of gratitude but hesitated to let it grow. Part of her still guarded her heart, weary of too many struggles. She drew in a deep breath, slowly wrapping herself in the small jacket she had discarded the night before. When she stepped into the kitchen, Jack looked up, surprise mixed with warmth spreading across his face. "Morning," he said, pouring steaming coffee into two mismatched mugs. "Thanks," Maria replied, taking the coffee into her hands and savoring the heat that spread through her fingers. In the quiet morning, there was a hum of potential in the air, an awkward yet inviting pause where the storm had once raged. Jack couldn't help but study her. Her eyes, though shadowed with fatigue, sparkled with a light he hadn't noticed before. "How was your night?" He ventured hesitantly, unsure of how to breach the wall between them. Maria swallowed hard, then found her voice. It was better than I expected. She took a sip of her coffee, letting it comfort her. Thank you for letting us stay. Not a problem. You can stay as long as you need, Jack replied, the words slipping out before he had fully processed them. There was a flicker of uncertainty in his chest. What did it mean to offer a shelter, yet not let them feel like burdens? But in Maria's softening demeanor, he sensed a change, a hint of trust slowly seeping in where before there had only been doubt. Do you think the roads are clear yet? Maria asked, eyes darting towards the window, where a fresh light glinted off the newly fallen snow. I think I'll head out later to check. But for now, let us sit and talk. We've got a day ahead of us. As they sat at the table, the air between them crackled with a tentative energy. Maria spoke of her son, her hopes for him, and the dreams she had to fight for. Jack found himself listening intently, captivated by her passion and resolve. Each word shed more layers of the wall she carried around. He shared stories about the ranch, his life, and quietly poured out pieces of himself he hadn't touched in years. Outside, the sun grew brighter, sending sparkles dancing on the snow. It felt impossible, yet exhilarating, to share these moments. With each word exchanged, the isolation that had settled thick over the ranch began to lift. Hope was a shy flower cracking through the surface of frost. Jack set down his coffee mug and leaned in closer, an uncharacteristic warmth radiating from him. I never thought I'd be having conversations like this again. It's nice. Maria caught his gaze, her heart racing. There was electricity in the air, a sweet possibility shimmering between them. But just as she began to believe in the hope blooming inside her, a loud crash outside interrupted their moment. What was that? Jack's brow furrowed, and they both moved toward the door, uncertainty drawing them together again. Together, they stepped into the chilly air, bracing themselves for whatever awaited them beyond the threshold. As they opened the door, the world they stepped into was transformed. A new reality lay before them, but would it be a barrier or a bridge to their hearts? The uncertainty loomed, holding its breath just like Jack and Maria. What awaited them in the wake of the storm could change everything. The door creaked as they stepped outside, the icy air biting at their skin. Jack squinted against the bright white landscape, the snow glinting like tiny diamonds in the sunlight. Just a few yards away, something had collapsed, a huge oak tree that had been standing for decades now lying across the fence. Its mighty branches sprawled out, a heavy blanket of snow piled on top. Of Maria's breath caught in her throat. Oh no, the fence. Jack frowned, scanning the damage, his thoughts shifting quickly. It's going to take some work. The horses won't be able to get through. He cleared his throat, a familiar tension creeping back in. But it's not the worst. Just need to get it cleared and figure out how to fix it. I can help, Maria offered, her heart racing. Maybe this was her chance to prove she wasn't just a guest in his home. Her fingers wrapped tightly around the edges of her jacket, the warmth of the coffee slowly fading from her hands. She had a son to think of, a life to rebuild, and maybe, just maybe, this was the first step. Jack looked at her, a mix of surprise and appreciation in his eyes. Are you sure? It's a bit more than just picking up sticks. I can handle it, Maria said with a fragile yet determined smile. I'm not afraid of hard work. All right then, Jack replied, a flicker of admiration warming his expression. Let us get to it. Together, they walked over to the fallen tree, its massive trunk dwarfing them. Jack began clearing the lighter branches while Maria tackled the smaller twigs scattered across the snow. With each movement, they fell into a rhythm, working silently yet in sync, breathing in the crisp air. Their previous, fragile connection strengthened with each shared task, the silence less awkward, more comfortable. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, they shaped a small clearing around the wreckage, sweat forming beneath their layers of clothing. Maria could feel the burn in her muscles, but beyond that pain, there was something sweeter, like a melody beginning to resonate in her heart. Nice job, Jack said, taking a moment to rest. His breath appeared in quick puffs against the cold air. This old tree really did a number on the fence, though. We might have to call in some help for it. Maria paused her work too, wiping a bead of sweat from her brow with the back of her glove. You're not doing this alone, Jack. I'm here. I'll help however I can. I want to be part of this. I want to contribute. Jack turned to look at her, his eyes searching hers. You don't have to. You've already done so much just by being here. The acceptance of his words warmed her chest, yet there was tension beneath the surface, a question unsaid. You don't sound like you believe that, she replied softly, her heart thumping harder as the silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken feelings. I guess I just don't want to make it more complicated, Jack admitted, running a hand through his hair. Life's already a mess. I'm not sure I need more emotions to deal with. Sometimes it's in those messy emotions where we find our greatest strength, Maria said, her own courage rising, thankful for the clarity in her thoughts. Before Jack could respond, a distant voice called out, echoed in the stillness. Jack! Maria! Maria's stomach tightened, her heart sinking. Oh no, my son, I forgot to check on him. She spun around, fear gripping her. What if he is hurt? Jack reached out, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. Let us just make sure he is alright. I can help. We'll find him. They stood at a crossroads, hope flickering like a candle in the storm. Would this day lead to a stronger bond between them, or distance them further from what might blossom? As they hurried toward the sound, the fresh blanket of snow crunched underfoot, each step echoing the uncertainty of their future. They rushed toward the voice, the cold air around them stinging as they pushed through the branches thick with snow. Maria's heart raced faster with every step. Anxiety churned inside her, thoughts of her son replaying in her mind like a broken record. What if he had fallen? How would she ever forgive herself for losing track of him? Call out, buddy! Jack shouted, his voice steady against the chill. We're coming! They arrived at the edge of the yard, their breaths visible in the air, and Maria's panic heightened as she scanned the area. But then, from behind a snow-covered fence, her son's laughter broke through the silence, pulling at her heart like the sound of a song she hadn't heard in too long. Jack! Maria! The voice was bright and familiar, and Maria turned towards it, relief washing over her like a warm wave. There, happily kneeling in the snow, was her son, Max. He was building a snow fort that towered high, a fortress of winter wonder. Small, determined hands packed the snow tightly, his cheeks flushed with excitement. Look! I'm making a castle. Maria rushed forward, her heart swelling with love and gratitude. You scared me half to death. She exclaimed, pulling him into a tight embrace, the chill of outside melting against her warmth. Max giggled, oblivious to her fear. I just wanted to build a big one. Look at it. His eyes sparkled, and for a moment, all the worries of the world faded. Jack watched from a distance, leaning against the fence, a slight smile forming on his lips. He couldn't find himself worried in the face of Max's innocent joy. Maria's laughter mixed with her son's, and it struck something deep within him. Need help with that fortress? He called out, moving closer. Yes. Max shouted, his enthusiasm infectious. You can be the knight, and this will be our castle. Maria exchanged a glance with Jack, and something shifted in the space between them. It was as if, in that moment, they were all part of something larger. A family. She felt her chest tighten, a mix of hope and uncertainty brewing inside her. What do you think, Jack? Want to help us defend our castle? She asked, a playful lilt in her voice, her heart daring to beat a little faster. Jack chuckled, shaking his head as he knelt beside Max. If I'm going to defend anything, it's going to take some heavy artillery, he quipped, grabbing a nearby snowball. They started to build the fort, creating walls and collaborating as laughter filled the air. The distance between Jack and Maria began to shrink, as if the barriers they both had built around their hearts were slowly beginning to dissolve. After an hour, they leaned against the structure, catching their breath. Snowflakes drifted lazily around them, and for the first time, Maria felt let in, not just to the physical labor, but to something deeper. Jack's presence felt like a blanket of stability in the swirling chaos of her life. Thank you, she murmured, glancing at him. For being here. I'm glad I could help, he replied, meeting her gaze full on. There was warmth in his expression that made her heart flutter. Just then, Max perked up. Hey, look! He pointed excitedly at the horizon. "There's a whole bunch of horses coming." Maria's breath quickened again, but this time with anticipation. She turned toward the direction Max was pointing, her heart racing, thoughts racing even faster. Horses? Here? But as they all turned to look, an uneasy stillness fell, shadows dancing against the brilliant white snow. In that moment, another feeling crept in alongside excitement, a sense of dread. "Where did they come from?" Jack whispered, an edge of concern darkening his tone. As the sight of the horses grew closer, Maria felt the spark of destiny in the air, and questions flooded her mind. Did those horses bring a choice for her, or perhaps more challenges? She turned to Jack. What if they need us? And with that, they stood at the threshold of another unknown, the world around them shifting in ways they had yet to understand. Would they be prepared for whatever was next? Maria held her breath, captivated by the sight of the horses galloping toward them, their manes flowing like ribbons in the wind. She could barely make out the details, the glossy coats shimmering under the pale sunlight. There were so many, and each one seemed to carry a story of its own. "Are they wild?" Max asked, eyes wide in awe. He jumped in place, excitement radiating off him like heat from a fire. "I don't know," Maria replied, her protective instincts kicking in. "We should be careful." Jack nodded, sharing the moment with Maria's growing anxiety. "Let us not scare them away. They might be looking for shelter." As the horses approached, they slowed down, their hooves crunching softly against the snow. Maria could see now, some were young, others older, but all looked majestic and worn, as if they had traveled a long way. "Look! That one is so big!" Max cried out, pointing to a towering chestnut stallion that stood proud, surveying the trio with watchful eyes. Maria reached for Max's hand, needing to keep him close. "Let us not rush in too fast, okay? We don't know what they've been through." Jack moved a little ahead, trying to establish a peaceful vibe for the horses. He crouched low, open palms out, hoping to show them he meant no harm. The stallion, cautiously curious, stepped closer, sniffing at the air. "Hey there, buddy," Jack said softly, his voice gentle. Maria watched Jack, a warmth spreading through her. This side of him was unexpected, compassionate, tender. In that moment, the snow around them seemed to hold still, the world narrowing to this intimate encounter. Suddenly, a whinny broke the quiet. From the edge of the group, a smaller horse, thin and trembling, took a step forward. Its coat was dulled by dirt and snow, and Maria felt her heart clench. It was a stark contrast to the others, and something about it tugged at her deeply. "That one looks sick," she whispered, her voice cracking. "We need to help it." Jack looked at her, his eyes wide with realization. "You think it needs shelter? Or a vet?" Max, still filled with enthusiasm, chimed in, "Can we take it home with us?" Maria hesitated, struggling with the weight of the question. They had barely recovered from their own struggles, and now they were faced with taking on more. But the sight of the frail horse, reaching out with hesitant steps, was more than she could bear. I think we should try to help," she said slowly, her heart racing with the responsibility of the decision. Before they could discuss further, the little horse stumbled, falling into the snow. It looked small and scared, its eyes glistening with confusion. Jack's gaze flicked between Maria and the horse, and she could see the hesitant determination growing in him. "All right. Let us do this together." He moved forward, gaining the horse's trust, whispering words of assurance. Max's face brightened, and he trotted alongside Jack, filling the atmosphere with his bubbling excitement. As Maria watched them, she felt a swell of hope again, a tender flicker igniting within her. Helping this horse could mean starting to mend something broken within themselves. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the trees, causing the horses to rear back in surprise. Maria's heart dropped into her stomach. "What was that?" she gasped, instinctively knocking into Jack, who steadied her. "I don't know, but it sounded bad," he said, tension rising between them. As they looked around, the deep wood seemed to darken, moving with a life of its own. They had stepped into a path fraught with uncertainty, one that could lead to more than just helping a lost creature. Now the question loomed, what other secrets lay hidden in the shadows? Would they uncover dangers they weren't prepared for? As the air grew colder, Maria felt the weight of their choice heavy on her shoulders. They weren't just helping a horse, they were on the brink of something greater. Let us find out, Jack whispered, his voice steady, a shared resolve binding them. They stepped forward together, crossing into unknown territory, driven by hope and the instinct to protect. But what awaited them in those darkened woods? The wind whipped through the trees, carrying the echo of the crack that had startled the horses. Maria shivered, pulling her jacket tighter around her. Jack looked down at her, concern etched on his face, but there was something more. A flicker of determination, especially when he glanced at the wounded horse, still trembling in the snow. Maybe it was just a branch, he murmured, though they both sensed it might be something else altogether. There were no animals running through the woods, no bustling life, just the heavy silence pressing down on them. Yeah, maybe, she replied, though doubt nodded her. Something about the forest around them felt wrong. She could feel its mood shift. Cold and dark. Max, oblivious to their unease, took steps toward the small horse. "Come on, buddy. We're gonna help you," he said, his usual buoyancy unfazed by the surrounding gloom. Maria watched her son's innocent bravery, and a surge of fear mixed with pride flooded her heart. He was so full of life, so eager to connect, and she wondered how she could protect that light while navigating this uncertain path. Jack edged closer to the frail horse, holding out his hand. "Hey there, it's okay," he soothed, a soft melody in his voice. The horse quieted, flinching less as Jack's gentle gestures seemed to break through its fear. Maria took a deep breath, stepping beside Jack. "I can help. Let me give it some hay." She turned to rummage through her backpack. They brought snacks for their trip, but now they needed to serve a higher purpose. She produced a small bundle of oats, the last of their food. "I just hope it likes this." Max's eyes glimmered. "Good idea, Mom," he exclaimed, his little hands twitching with excitement. Together, they made a small offering, spreading it onto the snow just in front of the horse, whose eyes brightened at the sight, but just as it lowered its head to sniff the food, another loud crash resounded in the distance, closer this time. All three of them froze, hearts pounding as the sound faded into an eerie silence. What was that?" Max whispered, his previous excitement replaced with fear. "I don't know, buddy," Maria said, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. "But we have to stay calm." Suddenly, the horses began to move with purpose, trotting cautiously away from the noise, as if sensing something they couldn't see. Maria's heart sank. "We can't let the horse go," Jack insisted. "It needs us." "Right. But we also need to be careful. Let us try herding it with us." "If we stay close," Maria trailed off, scanning the woods for signs of danger. Jack nodded and glanced back at the stallion, its proud frame silhouetted against the silvered trees. "Okay, Max, stay close to us, all right? We'll keep each other safe." "Right." The boy beamed, determined but still nervous, drawing closer to the adults. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves made them jump. Together, they moved with quiet purpose through the thickening woods, trying to gain the horse's trust while inching farther from the unknown yet feeling its pull stronger. "Do you think we should go deeper?" Maria asked, hesitating as the trees seemed to lean closer. Jack looked at her, the weight of the decision heavy between them. "I don't know. But we can't abandon it now." Just then, another sound echoed, a howl, distant yet haunting, and it turned their blood cold. "What if?" Max began, eyes wide. "It's okay, Max. We're here," Maria said, wrapping her arm around him. "We just need to keep moving." But Maria's thoughts raced. How could they help the horse when danger lurked just a breath away? Would they find shelter or a trap? And in that moment, she realized the forest might offer more mysteries than they could uncover. Forward, she whispered into the chilly air, scrambling to regain her breath and her courage. What other revelations awaited them in this uncharted territory? Would they face the unknown together or crumble under its weight? The tension in the air was palpable as they pressed deeper into the woods. Every shadow felt alive, every gust of wind whispered unknown secrets. Maria could see the fear in Max's eyes, mixing with fierce resolve. She wrapped her arms around him tighter, hoping it would give him strength as much as it would give her. Jack continued moving ahead, his eyes scanning for any sign of danger. "Stay sharp," he called back, his voice calm but firm. The horse lingered just steps behind, nudging its muzzle toward Jack, clearly reassured by his gentle presence. "Almost there, girl," he whispered, his disposition softening as they all moved together. Maria noticed how Jack's demeanor shifted whenever he spoke to the horse. It was as if they were communicating, a silent bond forming as they trudged through snow that crunched beneath their boots. Suddenly, a rustling in the underbrush made them halt again. Maria's heart raced, and she instinctively pulled Max closer. Jack turned, immediately on high alert. "What was that?" Max whispered, a tremor in his voice. "Just the wind," Jack replied, but he couldn't fully mask the unease in his tone. He stepped cautiously toward the sound, each footfall deliberate, their surroundings growing increasingly oppressive. But Maria felt a pull in the opposite direction, a yearning for safety, for warmth, for anything other than the thick darkness closing in. "Jack, maybe we should find an open area, somewhere we can see better?" "Okay, let us try to find a clearing," he agreed, glancing back at the horse. Though it seemed to trust him, Maria could see its own fear reflected in its wide eyes. They found a small clearing where the trees opened up, allowing wisps of moonlight to pierce the gloom. But as they stepped into the light, the howling returned, a haunting chorus echoing through the forest. "Mom, I don't like this place," Max said, clinging tightly to her. "I know, sweetheart." Maria's voice trembled as she knelt beside him, stroking his hair. "But we're together. And we won't let anything happen to each other." Jack crouched beside the horse, trying to keep the creature calm. "Maybe if we stay in this clearing, we can create a barrier with the backpacks and something to keep it protected." Maria nodded, trying to shake off the cold that was creeping into her bones. They quickly began stacking their packs and making a small, makeshift pen. She could feel adrenaline coursing through her as they worked, every second ticking by like an eternity. But as they finished, another crashing sound erupted not far away, the unmistakable sound of heavy footsteps trampling through the underbrush. "What is that?" Max whimpered, his voice barely a whisper. "I don't know, honey," Maria said, her heart hammering in her chest. "But we need to stick together." Just then, the starlit just above them flickered momentarily, and Maria's instincts flared. Something large moved at the edge of the clearing, and in that moment, time slowed. The vast shapes were blurred, yet she sensed a primal energy that filled the air. Jack stood, eyes wide, staring into the shadows. "Whatever it is, we need to be ready together." As the darkness shifted, they held their breath, trapped in the external silence yet tumultuous internally. Would this moment forge the bond they needed to survive? But before they could ponder further, something lunged into the clearing, an unexpected sight against the white backdrop of fresh snow. Were they truly ready to face what lay ahead? What would emerge from the forest, and would it be a friend or foe? The figure emerged from the shadows, breaking the tension with a sudden, chaotic energy. Maria's heart skipped a beat as she strained to see what it was. It burst into the clearing with an ungraceful leap, sliding to a halt just a few feet away. A deer. Not just any deer, but a massive buck, both majestic and wild. Its antlers were like twisted branches reaching toward the sky, glistening slightly with snowflakes. It sniffed the air, eyes wide and terrified, just as Max whimpered in the back. "Stay still," Jack urged, raising a hand to keep them quiet. The buck glanced around, its breaths coming in quick bursts. Maria held her own, transfixed by its beauty yet acutely aware of the peril surrounding them. The howling of the wind morphed, becoming a chorus of whispers that rippled through the trees, as if the forest itself was reacting to the presence of this creature. "Why is it here?" Max's voice trembled, breaking the stillness. "Probably searching for safety," Jack replied softly, his eyes never leaving the buck. "Just like us." Maria felt a wave of empathy wash over her. This wasn't just a wild animal, it was a being seeking refuge, much like them. She knelt beside Max, keeping her hand on his shoulder. "Look, buddy," she whispered. "It's scared, just like we are." The buck took a tentative step closer, its dark eyes catching the moonlight, reflecting the worry and fear of the unknown. But then the ground beneath them rumbled, heavy footsteps continued not too far from where they stood, drawing ever closer. "Stay back." Jack's voice shot like an arrow, filled with urgency. He angled his body protectively in front of the horse, who fidgeted with anxiety. The buck, sensing the danger, bolted back into the woods, disappearing like a shadow into the depths of the trees. Maria felt a sudden pang of loss, a connection with the wild reduced to a fleeting encounter, and then came the chaos. From the darkness emerged a large creature, claws scraping against bark and ground. A massive wolf. Its piercing eyes locked onto their small group, calculating and fierce. Maria's breath hitched, panic lurching within. "Don't move," Jack said, voice grounded but edged with fear. The wolf prowled forward, muscles coiled, its intent clear. It was hungry. It was desperate. For a moment, time stood still. Maria's chest tightened as she gained clarity. It wasn't just survival now, it was about making a stand, about protecting her son and Jack. "Can you distract it?" she murmured to Jack, knowing they had little time. With a calculated risk in his eyes, Jack grabbed a fallen branch nearby, swinging it wildly to grab the wolf's attention. "Hey! Over here!" he shouted, his voice echoing in the stillness. "Mom!" Max cried out, fear dripping from every syllable. "Stay close to me," Maria answered, a fierce protectiveness igniting inside of her. The wolf paused, turning its head, caught momentarily between Jack's earnest attempt to save them and its hunger. Then, the sound of a low growl rumbled through the clearing, vibrating with danger. "Now!" Maria shouted, gripping Max's hand tightly. She felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through her as the wolf launched itself forward, teeth bared, a dreadful determination in its eyes. Every heartbeat seemed like a countdown, every second stretching into eternity as Jack faced the beast. Would fear triumph or courage lead them to safety? As the wolf approached, ready to pounce, a shocking sound echoed through the forest. Was it a growl, or a warning? In that moment, everything changed. What would emerge from the chaos of desperation? Would they fight for survival or lose everything they'd come to cherish? The wolf lunged, and time fractured into unpredictable shards. Jack swung the branch with all his might, his effort a desperate dance for survival. The wolf, momentarily distracted, skidded to the side, its eyes flashing with frustration. "Run!" Jack shouted, and with that word, Maria's instincts took over. Heart pounding, she yanked Max close, feeling his small body tremble against hers. They dashed back into the forest, urgency pulling them forward. The cold air stung as they maneuvered through the towering trees, vines grabbing at their clothes like fingers. "Mom, what if it catches us?" Max's voice trembled, fear choking his words. "We'll be okay, sweetheart," she said, even though every inch of her felt the dread creeping closer. The forest was dark and alive, the wind howling like a chorus of wailing ghosts. Suddenly they stumbled upon a narrow path lined with bushes. It was a brief respite. Maria pulled Max behind a thicket, adrenaline buzzing in her veins. She clutched her son tightly, listening intently to eye in the distance. The wolf's growls echoed, the sound bouncing between the trees. It was still hunting. The thought made her stomach twist. "Jack!" she whispered urgently, searching the shadows for his figure. There was no sign of him, and the realization sent icy fingers curling around her heart. He is still out there, he can't fight that thing alone. Max's small fingers tightened around hers. "We can't leave him." "I know, buddy, but we also can't be caught." She took a deep breath, steadying herself. Max looked up, his eyes wide and innocent but filled with determination. "Then let us find him." The resolve in her son's voice ignited something within Maria. "Okay." They moved quietly along the path, dodging branches and stepping lightly on the frosty ground. Every crackle of twigs felt magnified, drawing her attention away from their goal. The tension hung in the air with each breath they took, creating a fragile cocoon around them. After what felt like hours, they rounded a bend and paused at a clearing. Jack was not far off, standing firm but weary, his eyes scanning the tree-line. Relief washed over her, yet it was quickly replaced with alarm as she spotted the wolf circling him, muscles coiled like a spring, ready to attack. "Jack!" Maria cried, her voice breaking the delicate balance of silence. His head whipped around, eyes widening as he caught sight of her and Max get back. But it was too late. The wolf lunged at Jack, teeth snapping. In that moment, instinct took over once more. Gripping a rock she had picked up earlier, Maria hurled it with all her strength. It struck the wolf's side, causing it to stagger, just enough to divert its attention. What the Jack blinked in surprise. Now, Jack! Maria yelled with fierce urgency. Jack seized the opportunity, scrambling back toward them as the wolf recovered. With adrenaline fueling him, he slid back to their side. They were together now, united by the raw power of survival, yet the wolf was not deterred. It growled low and deep, eyes now solely focused on them as if realizing they were a pack together against a common threat. Maria, what do we do? Jack breathed, desperation creeping into his voice. She took a moment to gather her thoughts, adrenaline still coursing through her. The fear of the beast was palpable, yet they had to focus on each other. There had to be a way out. Max, can you climb that tree? She pointed to a sturdy trunk nearby, its branches reaching upwards. Can I really? He whispered, hope igniting in his eyes. Yes. You can do this. Maria said firmly, her voice steady. While Max scrambled upwards, Maria and Jack stood side by side, ready to fight if necessary. As Max reached the first branch and glanced down nervously, the wolf snarled, its patience waning. What would happen if the wolf charged again? Would they all escape? Amid the suffocating uncertainty, Maria felt hope kindling deep within her heart. If there was any chance to survive this night, they would take it together. Just then, a sound broke the tension. An unexpected rustling stirred from the other side of the clearing. At first, it was indistinct, but then a trio of larger figures emerged, moving with purpose and dominance. Stay close. And watch out! Jack shouted, readying himself once more. What new danger lurked in the shadows? Would help arrive, or was this just another layer of peril obscuring their path to safety? The new figures stepped boldly into the clearing, bringing an air of unexpected power that felt like a gust of fresh wind after a long storm. With a flick of their manes and an aura of authority, 3 horses emerged from the shadows, one of them the strong chestnut stallion whose gaze locked onto the wolf, eyes fierce and defiant. Maria felt her heart swell with hope. Jack and she exchanged a glance that spoke volumes. It was a moment of unspoken trust and recognition of shared strength. They weren't alone anymore. The wolf hesitated, sensing the shift in energy. The stallion stepped forward, snorting defiantly, and the other 2 horses flanked him like guardians. There was a commanding presence about these creatures that made the air thick with tension. The wolf, uncertain and wary, flicked its gaze between the humans and the new arrivals, its growl sputtering into an uncertain whine. Can they help us? Maria whispered, her heart pounding. Jack nodded, his attention fixated on the powerful stallion. Stay close to me, he murmured, bravely edging toward the wolves while keeping one eye on Max, who was still perched high above, wide-eyed but silent. As the stallion stomped its hooves, a chorus of snorts filled the air, and Maria felt a surge of something. Was it hope? Was it belief in the possibility of protection? The wolf, sensing the shift, took a cautious step back. The stallion moved increasingly closer until it was directly facing the wolf, holding its ground with an incredible sense of defiance. Then, the moment hung in the air. Unable to resolve its own uncertainty, the wolf let out a frustrated growl before it turned, retreating back into the woods, swallowed by the darkness. Breath rushed from Maria's lips as her pulse slowed, relief washing over her like warm sunlight breaking through clouds. She turned to Jack and found him looking at her, astonished. We did it, Maria, he said, disbelief dancing in his eyes. Max scrambled down from the tree, his small legs eager to reach his mother and Jack. Did you see? They scared the wolf away. He shouted, running to them and crashing into Maria's arms. For a few heartbeats, they stood there wrapped in each other's presence. The calm after the chaos, a family forged through fire and uncertainty. As the stallion circled near them, he seemed to sense that they were safe now. He approached Maria, his deep eyes glimmering with understanding. Jack pointed toward the horses. They might have come to help. We should make sure they're okay too. Maria followed his lead, feeling an overwhelming gratitude swell within. What do you think we should do? Jack looked deeply at the stallion. I think we should bring them home. They need safety just as much as we do. With newfound purpose, they approached the majestic animals, and Maria's heart raced as she gently reached out, feeling the warmth emanating from the stallion. The horses stood proud and calm, as if they understood the weight of what had happened. One step at a time, they circled their newfound friends back toward the clearing where warmth, safety, and love awaited. As they moved together toward the ranch, Maria and Jack exchanged glances filled with unspoken promises. No longer were they just two souls lost in a storm, they had weathered the chaos, discovered a bond deeper than the fears that once chained them. Returning to the ranch felt like crossing a finish line. The horses settled comfortably beside the porch while Maria and Jack led them to safety within the barn. There, surrounded by a sense of home, they felt the last remnants of tension fade away. In the cozy barn, warmth wrapped around them, and laughter bubbled like a spring from within. "Looks like we've got some new friends." Max grinned, filling the air with light. And for the first time, Maria felt the ghosts of her past dissolve. The storm within her had calmed, and joy sparked in her heart. Holding Jack's gaze, she saw what the future could hold: a life shared, laughter exchanged, challenges faced together. As their families intertwined with the strength of the wild. Horses now resting safely beside them, they knew they were never going to be alone again. "This is just the beginning," Jack murmured, a smile breaking across his face. "Yes, together," Maria answered, the weight of hope blooming between them. They grabbed hands as they faced the dawn, ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing they would triumph through every trial that lay ahead. Light streamed through the barn doors as the sun rose, painting the sky with promise. They stood together, hearts alight with everything that had changed. And there it was, a brand new beginning. Now, you need to subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help more people discover journeys like this one. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this emotional journey we just took. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support matters, and only true fans understand its importance.